Hello, this is Darrell Spears with EliteConversations.com, and I want to thank you guys for joining us for another session of Coach's Corner. Coach's Corner is developed to provide a knowledge for everyone. Our goal is to share knowledge that will strengthen our capacity to prosper. As business owners, we are doing the work ourselves in terms of trying to grow our business, and we want to take the experience, the knowledge, the expertise that we have and share it with those that are out trying to do the same thing, which is to grow and prosper in business. So I'm excited to have my core coaches and experts in the house. Again, we have Ms. Darlene Brown, who is the owner and CEO and founder of Divine Empowerment, with over 20 years of experience in public speaking and coaching, in process management. Whatever you need, Darlene can provide it for you. So I'm so glad to have her in the house with us. We also have Mr. Todd Rogers. He is the president and CEO of Logical Technology, a research and paradigm company that provides services for business owners in the public, private, and government sector. And he can provide a wealth of knowledge on what we can do to strategize and be a business that can reach several different levels of business. And finally, we have Mr. Dr. Anthony Maxwell Perdue. He is a business strategy and planning expert, also a leadership consultant, and has a lot in terms of helping us with our business in the startup phase all the way through to the growth stage in terms of process and planning. So I'm so happy to have this show. I'm so happy to be able to give information out to you. And today we're going to even talk about stages of how to just start a business. You know, we're going all the way back to the 101 level of business and really talk about the startup, the business plan stage, and how we can take very strategic steps to make sure that we don't have to come back and start all over again. Because a lot of times we rush and do things. So welcome. Thank you, coaches, for being a part of Coach's Corner again.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Glad to have you. And let's just get started. We have a lot of information to cover, information that we want to get through to individuals and allow them to take notes and prosper from what we're providing. And we're going to talk, first of all, about the early stages, the startup stage. You guys have all been through it. It might have been a while since you've had to go through that startup stage. So before we even get into the questions, do you have a story or share a little bit about your startup process, Todd, and just what it took to plan? You had an idea, you had your expertise from college and school and all the things that you've learned, but share just a little bit about the importance of being particular about the startup stage from day one.
Yeah. So I think I'd like to go back to I guess the mid 80s, before I really understood how important it was to have a business plan. So I went to college, right? And you're in business classes, and they're telling you have to have a business plan. And so sometimes you stick this stuff in your head, and you say, "Look, I'm the smart person in the room. I can do this. I can remember everything." And you absolutely can't. So when I first came to D.C., I actually owned a cleaning company, and so we had multiple properties in the commercial cleaning space, but as a result of not understanding exactly what I needed to do, I didn't understand the market, who my competition was, and how the market was going to be affected long term. So I was more in it for the money. And a lot of people make that mistake to say, look, I want to make money.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not the way to kind of attack a business. But it's a good lesson to get early, right, because I was still in my 20s. But at the same time, it's an expensive lesson. And this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, because I think many of us, when we're starting our first business, we don't understand the importance or the relevance of actually being able to stay on task. And you have to be able to do that in order to be successful. At that point, I was actually doing multiple things.
Wow.
But it would have had allowed me to actually do my exit sooner if I would have had a written document. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the first things that I like to say about that process. And you have to be able to, not only have your vision, but have a document to be able to stick with and stay with. But not saying that you won't augment it, because you will find things that are going to be or changes that you have to make that are going to be vital to how you succeed and if you actually survive. So most people, I think the number, Darlene, may be somewhere around, people start maybe 10 businesses in their lifetime and then 8 of them fail or something like that.
Right.
And it's probably because you don't have a business plan or lack of financing or, all of these other things that you would know if you had the business plan. You would know how much capitalization that you would need.
Right. Wow. So just on a practical level, Darlene, what do we say that you're there, you have your idea, you're ready, you're excited about it because you feel like, oh man, nobody's doing this, I'm ready to do it, but you haven't done the business plan yet. What's the 1, 2, 3 in terms of getting started?
The 1, 2, 3 is I tell a lot of people that come to me, they have this vision of what they want to do, and so my first thing is have you written it out? Even if you don't have the wherewithal, how do I start a business plan? Write out the vision. So what is it that you want to do? and who is your target audience, right? Who are the people that you feel need your product or service? And how will you reach them? How will they know about you, right? Write these things. These are simple questions. And then how will you handle the transactions? How will I provide my product or service to them, and how will I receive payment for that? What does that process look like? And the other thing I always encourage people is to do the research, because we always feel like, I have a great niche. I have an idea. I have this vision, and no one else out there is doing it like me, and that very well could be true. You could be very unique in a certain industry. But researching the industry is critically important to your long-term sustainability. It lets you know, one, who your competition is, right? That's very important. It's not about there isn't an audience for you, but it's about knowing who is your direct competition. And how long have they been in business? What exactly do they do? This type of data gathering is essential and really becomes a cornerstone for you to be clear about how you're going to corner a certain area of that market. How are you going to, if you're doing the same thing, what's going to make you so much better and greater than them? So you need the data to be able to know that. And so you got to do the research. So just start writing it down. I encourage people when they say, I don't know how to write a business plan. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just answer this question and then write it out in layman's terms. Start there. Answer this question and then write it out in layman's terms, the way that you know how. You begin when you do that to start putting in some type of structure that you can then go back to and fine-tune and tweak. The other thing is go to the library. I know we live in an internet society, and I believe in Google search, but go to the library and start checking out some books on business and read them and document, because this is not anything new, right? We've had a lot of successful businesses that have been around for centuries. They all started in this same way. An idea, they wrote it down, they did the research, they mapped it out. It became their business plan. Even though it might not have been solid, it became the start of their business plan that they then utilized that document to help them go forward to the next stage.
I like that. And that actually moves us right into the next stage and talking to you, Anthony, in terms of, having that business plan and using it. We're talking about creating a business plan, but if it's there, how do we use it and make sure we're attracting the heart of our business? I just want to read something that I read in Forbes the other day. It says, new entrepreneurs get caught up in the minute of presentations, phone calls, meetings, email, and they get distracted from the heart of their business. And I know that you focus a lot on processes and really knowing your processes, understanding your business plan. How important is it in terms of helping you stay focused, that business plan?
Well, I think the first thing, and I always start with why. I mean, people should know their why. Like, why are you actually doing this, right? So with the business plan, there's also a part called the mission statement, which is also that purpose, right? So, in fact, most businesses that are successful, Apple, Google, they have a very strong mission statement that is unchangeable for a lot of, like, the vision may change, but that mission, the purpose for why you are in business, tends to stay pretty solid. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say, Sun Tzu has a quote that basically says, if you're prepared everywhere, you're not prepared anywhere.
Wow.
So pretty much you want to be able to prioritize what needs to get done and in what order. So part of what I do as a coach is help people with strategic execution, strategic choice. So based upon some criteria of, revenue attainment or client satisfaction versus how much it's going to cost or what's going to be the impact to the business when you try to get it started. So really being able to say, what do I do? 1, 2, 3, what is my priority of the business actions that I have to take is something I really focus on. And then I think the third thing is, how are you going to measure success, right? Especially in this internet age and kind of the technology age. There's a book, and I forget the name off the top of my head, but it has a quote that says, the OMTM, the one metric that matters. And sometimes that changes. So if you think about Amazon, I think just came up over $1,000 per share this week. Their OMTM was basically subscriber growth, and even when they were losing money, they just wanted to get people to come shop on their site, even though they were losing money for years. And so folks thought Jeff Bezos was a little bit off his rocker, but now he's the one laughing to the bank, launching rockets up in space and owning the Washington Post over here. So so that's kind of what I would say is, really know your why, know why you're in business, your purpose, have a plan that talks about the choices and the prioritization of the choices you're making, and then, to have that focus on the metrics of success.
Excellent. Let's shift a little bit. A big part of business plan, a big part of startup, let me just change that a little bit, is really understanding your competitors, understanding them in terms of the market. That plays in as part of your business case and your business plan. Talk a little bit about how you, as a business, treat your competitors. How do you use them for intelligence? Do you use them for knowledge? Are you strategizing based on the actions that they do? Help people understand how you should treat a competitor.
So, well, it depends on, in what business that you're in. So at times, a competitor can actually be an ally, right? Because they can actually be driving the market with you.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So you have to make sure that you understand, because that actually may, you quoted Sun Tzu earlier, and in one of his other quotes, and I'm not going to be, I can't remember exactly what it was, but keep your enemies closer. Right?
Exactly.
And that's really what you want to do in these situations. If you're in, I don't care if it's ice cream or IT, right? You have to understand where you're marketing to, if your competitors are going into that same market, what their weaknesses are, when you have an opportunity to actually team with that potential competitor also, because they can actually be an ally, as I said earlier. So if you understand those things, so you don't always have to look at people half crazy, right? Because it's not always going to be like that. At times, you really want to have a situation where you can actually, work in the same markets, either with or against. But at some point, if you're working in these areas, you will see them. And sometimes they may actually have a valuable asset that you don't have at that point. Right. So, you have to look at this thing differently. And I when we first started, I kind of talked about my first experience, right? In business. But, those were the things that I didn't understand, because I hadn't gotten into a position or had matured enough, to understand that, well, maybe if you have, 100 employees and I only have 10, right. Maybe I should think about this and figure out a way of being able to partner and team, because you have infrastructure that I don't have. Right. And then we can actually grow a market together. So, that's kind of one of the statements, and obviously we'll talk a little more as we kind of work through some of these discussions. Yeah,
and Darlene, if you can, again, we really want to help those that are watching, and it's a thin line between a competitor and a business alliance. You just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Share how people should approach that, because even though they're in your same market, doesn't necessarily mean they're a competitor.
Absolutely. I think that the first thing you should do is whatever your why is, whatever you're going, you need to research the market. Like, you can have your business plan, but you need to know what's out there in the market. And when I say research, I research not just who your competition, how long have they been in business? What are their products? Really create this profile of them. for two reasons. One, it's teaching you, right? Because if you're a startup and you're new coming into that industry and they have had success and been in that industry for 10 plus years, then that means there's an opportunity for you to maybe also learn, even if it's from a distance. That research lets you do that. And also, when I say learn, it's just that, because they may have infrastructure that you don't. They have revenue where they can cover certain overhead that you can't because you're starting up. And so sometimes there's nothing wrong with reaching out from the perspective of you're looking to be mentored by a successful business owner who's been in that industry for 10 plus years. Because there are things that you're going to be able to learn by being in a mentee position. That's very important. So you can't always look at it that they're my competition. Sometimes you have to look at they are in the business. They have had success in an industry of which I am entering into, and I want to prepare myself. So aligning yourself, right, making them an alliance or a mentor organization is a great thing. Similar, we do that, right, to some degree.
Yeah, and a mature business owner
Yes.
will understand, right? So, the value of kind of a mentor-protege type of relationship. Because, at times, the mentor could actually be getting ready to exit the market for one reason or another, and they're actually looking for somebody to actually help out.
Exactly.
Right? Or they're tired, right?
Right,
So,
exactly.
you have to think about this a little differently. So, when you approach these people, as we've been talking about, one of the things, you have to actually understand who you're talking to, right? So do the research on the companies and make sure that you understand, and all of this stuff is public information if you really look for it.
Yes,
what their revenues are, what
Yes.
the contracts are, or what type of business they are, they're in. If they're a walk-in business, and I'm trying to be more generic, and kind of because we're really talking about a one-on-one situation here, or are they more of a service providing type of business where they're actually going out to close the business?
Right.
So you have to figure out where you kind of sit and the type of people that you really need to partner with. So never look at a competitor as a true competitor, because they may actually be something else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's key. And I think, again, getting back to the one-on-one level, there are startup individuals in the startup stage. How do they actually start building relationships? I talk to a lot of folks and they don't want to cold call. They don't want to pick up the phone. But share with why you need to get out there, establish relationships, and talk about how you can leverage the relationships that you have to get to someone else. We're all here because we've leveraged relationships with each other. But I think, because we're talking about startups today, there are individuals that have never been in business before. They have a great idea, but they don't understand the relationship part. What's the basic level of building relationships? And then you guys can.
So let me chime in here. If I could kind of use my own experience. So I used to work for IBM, and when I started my own company, I developed a list of 100. And so the people that I work with at IBM, the people that I've known from undergraduate, grad school, and friends and family, and really that vision and that story that I had of what I wanted to do in creating my consulting and coaching business, I sent out emails. I sent out emails and letters, and telling folks, here's what I do, and so it's about awareness. I think, initially, and awareness can be kind of concentric, close to the heart of where you are, but then also whether it's leveraging social media, leveraging folks on the web, etc. So really creating that awareness, and then the second part is establishing trust. And so one of the most important things about doing business, either whether it's partnering or whether it's gaining new clients, is to have them trust you. No one is going to want to do business with you if you're not trustworthy. So part of it, there's a strategy called jab, 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 punch. And so if you're someone that has a website or someone that does a lot of social media, you want to kind of give content to build that trust. Trust that they know, hey, this person or this company is giving me information that's very good, but then I can trust that what they're giving me is real.
It's real.
And then that kind of punch is where you then maybe ask for some sort of business or some introduction, particularly in the B2C market, So I would say those two things.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else to share in that?
No, I think that
That's
building
good.
relationships is a process just like every other relationship, right? And I think that if you go to any type of networking events or you're meeting people, you exchange cards, but the key is in the follow-up. And I think there has to be a great awareness and even a system in place for you to be clear that you're doing the follow-up or the follow-through. Because it's in the follow-through that the relationship that from that meeting actually it begins and can become a relationship. But without the follow-through, it's just I met someone. And so I think in the follow-through, there has to be also some level of consistency. It can't just be a follow-through, hey, I met you. And it has to be very intentional. Okay, I met you. And what exactly would I like the outcome to be? Do I want it to have a face-to-face, a cup of coffee? Do I want some type of introductory meeting where I get to share, the highlights of my business? And I want to understand more about the highlights of your business. It's just like I say any other kind of relationship that you develop. It has to be intentional, and there has to be a strategy involved in it, and it's in the follow-through. You have to be consistent in that.
Yeah. So
that's huge.
So I like to kind of draw an analogy, right? So everyone's a salesperson in the organization. If you don't want to sell, then you will die. Just think about it that way, right? So. If you've, met your wife, you had to sell, or your husband, right? So this is exactly the same scenario. So you have to be intentional about it. You have to understand that if you aren't going to put the time in, then you're going to get very little out, as Darlene is pointing to. And the relationships, you strengthen those over time. But you have to go in from a position of strength, but also a trust position. So if you end up with they obviously they have to understand that you know what you want, out of the relationship in any type of business experience. But you also have to be competent. So you can't walk in. I mean, for years, as I kind of matured through, my career, people would walk into my office. Now I'm running these large sales organizations, and they walk in my office and say, "Help me get some business." And I'm like, well. How do I do that, right? And you're like, okay, well, what do you know how to do? Well, I'm a small business. Help me. And I'm like, well, what do you do, right? So you have to be able to articulate, exactly, what you do. You have to be able to give them some type of, whoever you're talking to, the reasons why I should do business with you and how you're going to help me. That's so, right. I think we all have. I know that we all have. I mean, we do a lot of things out of the kindness of our hearts, right?
Right.
But at the same time, if you're the other person walking in, knowing that person really does want to help you, give that person somewhere to start from. I mean, because they're there for your benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are moving forward. We have Ms. Darlene Brown with us of Divine Empowerment. We're also talking with Mr. Todd Rogers of Logical Technology and Research, a Paradigm Company. And Dr. Anthony Perdue of Compass Leadership Group. I want to read one last stat that I have here and get you guys to chime in because I think it's so important. We're talking about a startup business, and we're talking about doing a business plan and all this good stuff. But this sort of struck me. It says 42% of entrepreneurs have been identified as failing in business because they have because their products is a lack of market need in the industry. So they've created a business, they have a product, but the market doesn't want it. Right. So help individuals that are watching. It might sound good to you.
Right.
It might be something you like, or you think people want, but how do people do the research and do the testing to identify if there's even something that their service or product people are going to buy? It might be something that you might just be able to give away, but nobody wants to pull out their wallet. How do people deal with that, and how do they research and figure out if their product or service is marketable?
Well, I think it's kind of in multiple stages, and it's kind of like a funnel. You're familiar with sales. We used to have a product development pipeline. And part of it is, you want to write down, so this is where the business plan comes in, what product and services you're offering, and be clear about what that is. and then take that and do the research. Darlene mentioned the books, but there's also ABI Informed. There's like different types of online research you can do to understand the market. And there's what we used to call
needs assessment. Market needs assessment.
Yeah, exactly. Market sizing, right? And then is it geographic? Are you looking at the Washington, D.C. area? Are you looking to go global and use more of a global brand, leveraging the internet and social media? So kind of know how you're slicing your market and see what the opportunity is. And then I'd say also, knowing that competition, as we talked about. But one thing that folks do now, particularly companies that do it very well, they do kind of this poke and see, right? So whether it's a product or service, they'll create it in kind of a alpha or beta format, and they'll throw it out there.
Pilot.
Google is very good at this,
It
right?
is.
And so we can take some of these lessons from the big boys, right, and leverage them in our small and medium companies as well, and pilot it with a select group of folks and get the feedback.
Right, and I'm glad that you just mentioned the select group of folks. So typically, it's focus groups where you say, okay, that select group of folks, it's only 10. But out of that 10, how many actually do like this product? And, it could be friends and family, but I wouldn't suggest that. But, you want people that are actually unconnected in most cases, right, that are going to give you real feedback. And so, for example, a couple years ago, we developed a product for the election, right? And it was actually a kind of a web app and some other things. We actually use services, right, that these folks are unconnected. They're pulled out of a pool. They would be global, right? So now it actually gave you an opportunity to market to folks from Germany or from Asia or from they were all signed up for this service, but even though it was an app, right? They actually would give you feedback on your product to help you make the product better, and that's one of the things that you want. So, you can look at that as a food product because we're really talking to a lot of different types of folks right now. In Columbus, Ohio, that's one of the major markets for new restaurants, right? So then they go in, they know that they have kind of a cross-cutting section of America. All right, I want to try a new hamburger, right? So I'm going to put it in Columbus, and then we'll figure out how it does in Columbus before we roll that out. Right. So you have to figure out what your Columbus looks like and how to get to those types of folks regardless of the type of business that you're in.
Excellent. Well, we're going to have to wind down, but before I go, Coach's Corner, and the reason we created Coach's Corner is for you, the business owner, those who are looking, but it has to be an extension. We're giving you some great information, some great knowledge, but you have coaches here, and we're going to be bringing a variety of coaches here that can actually help you. And that's one of the things that I coach on with my clients is that you have to find coaches in the area of specific needs that you have, and you have to pay for that. But it's going to save you money in the long run. So again, I want to take a minute and have each one of you take a minute to provide a little bit about yourself, your business, and just how individuals can get in touch with you. If you have a need for a startup business plan and process, if you understand how to do product engagement and research and all that good stuff, these are the individuals that can help you. So I'm going to start with Charlene, and then have you guys sort of introduce yourselves.
Darlene Brown, CEO, Divine Empowerment. I'm a certified business development coach and personal development coaching. I primarily work with small businesses, helping them in the infrastructure stage, helping them to develop their automated process, their automated business process, identify who their target audience is, help them create their tiers of products and services, and ensure that their company brand is consistent. And by that, I'm just, a lot of times people say, well, this is the company name. They don't really have a logo. They don't really have a brand, and the brand becomes inconsistent across different marketing platforms. So that's really important for me is brand recognition. And so I help them in those infrastructure stages. You can reach me. I'm online, divineempowerment.org. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Todd Rogers, President and CEO of Logical Technology and Research. It's a Paradigm company. And the reason why it's set up within side of the Paradigm organization is because we actually have more than one corporation that functions there. So, I wouldn't suggest that you start out where I am, right, with kind of more than one baby, right? That isn't the best place to start, but you grow over time. I think my value to your audience is the number of business opportunities that I've either been in, have invested in, and have grown over time. So I've been in a position where, I've started businesses from zero, but I've also grown businesses from 2 million to 100 million. So it's strategic growth, figuring out if a product is valuable enough, regardless of what it is. And I typically say ice cream to IT, right? So we're really talking about the gambit and how you actually grow through those stages of development. You can actually reach me through oneltr.com.
Okay, oneltr.com. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Dr. Perdue.
Sure. My name is Dr. Anthony Perdue. I'm the Managing Director of Compass Leadership Group. We do business and leadership consulting and coaching. And really what our main clients that we look for are folks that really want to make a change in the world. So when I talk about what's your why, what's your purpose, so companies like nonprofits, workforce development companies that are looking for more than just the profit, are looking for that social entrepreneur, figuring out what can be measured that's going to give a bigger impact than just profit. So maybe even looking at fatherlessness or children in homes, or how to change the social meter. So I work with a lot of companies in that area. And I have a solution called From Purpose to Profit. And it's that process you talked about, and kind of like with Darlene, taking from a strategic standpoint all the way through to how to execute in your business. And so as a certified business coach and as a doctor of strategic leadership, that's what I do. And you can reach me at www.compasslg.com or anthony@compasslg.com.
Excellent. I thank you all for being a part of it. Everyone knows who I am. I'm Darrell Spears. I also do coaching in terms of business strategies and strengthening you as a business owner in a variety of ways. You can find me, and you'll be able to find each one of these individuals on the Elite Conversation website. So if you didn't get a chance to write it down, just go to EliteConversations.com and you'll find their information. So we want to thank you for joining us. We'll be back every week with that information that could maybe just help you get over the top or clear up some burning questions that you have. But that's our goal, is to bring you information every week, and hopefully that knowledge and the information that you get will strengthen you so that you can prosper in business. So we thank you for joining us for Coach's Corner, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.